Hey everyone, so it's Hearth and welcome back to my channel. So on today's video, we're going to be doing another reaction video. This time it is to Skylife's video, I Spent a Day with Salem's Satanists and Witches. Now, I've done a lot of reactions on this channel to lots of different people, but this video was probably the most highly requested video I have ever had to react to. Now, for any of you who've been around for a while, you will know that I really enjoy Skylife's content. They always come at things with a great deal of respect and a desire to understand more about the practice. For many of us within the witchcraft and pagan community, we see a lot of stigma surrounding the practice, and so to have a content creator come at it from a very open-minded perspective, it gets two big thumbs up from me because that is something that we don't see all too often. So if you would like to follow Skylife, I will put the link to their channel down in the description box. So just a few things before we get started. The first is that I never put the full video in my video, so if you would like to watch the original content by Skylife, the link for that is in the description box, and I would thoroughly recommend that you do so. I have never seen this video before, but you might want to watch the video without me talking about it first, so that you can kind of get an idea of what the video is all about before you watch my reaction, because then you can kind of make up your own mind before you hear what my opinion on the topic is. The link is down there for your convenience, so that all you gotta do is click on it, go over, watch the original video, give Skylife a little bit of a thumbs up, subscribe to them if you like the content, and then you can come back and we can have a bit of a chit chat about it. Sound good? The second thing that I want to mention is that I never intend or am purposefully negative or malicious to anyone or the topic involved. My job here is simply to spread awareness about witchcraft, dispel any of the misconceptions that might be surrounding it, and give a little bit more information. As a practicing witch, my goal is to try to spread as much positive and accurate information as I can. And so at any time in this video where I feel like I need to add things in, I might choose to do that just so that you can get another opinion, another perspective on the topic. It's never designed to undermine or be negative to another person. It's just adding in my own perspective as another magical practitioner. And then the last thing, number 3, is that I go into all of these reaction videos having never seen the content before. I have no idea what's going to be spoken about. So all of my responses are just the instantaneous things that come to mind when I'm watching this video. Now in this instance, I do think it's important to note that I am a practicing witch. I am not a Satanist. And although I do know some information about Satanism, I don't know all that much. So just like a lot of you out there, we're likely going to be coming at this together from an open-minded view so that we can try and learn collectively from this, because although I do know people that are part of the Satanist community, I don't know that much about it. So this is going to be really interesting. So we're all going to learn today. I think that's how this is going to work. I think we're all going to learn something. So now that that is all out of the way, let's get on with the video. I am going to shuffle over so that I can put the screen right next to me so that you guys can actually see it. Otherwise, this is going to get really confusing, and let's get on with this reaction.
Woo! Jesus Christ! It's very doubtful that anybody who is accused of witchcraft during the witch trials were actually witches. But now we have people who actually do practice witchcraft in all its different forms. Living in Salem.
My career for almost 20 years now has been explaining to people that witches don't worship the devil. And now I also work for the Satanic Temple, and I have to explain to people the Satanic Temple doesn't worship the devil either.
Anytime I see witches on TV, I end up getting mad because it's not true. We're here to help people. We're not here to hurt people.
So we're only 40 seconds in, but I already feel the need to stop and just kind of elaborate on these points that have been made because they have been really, really good. Now, I'm kind of going to break down each one individually. The first being that the people that were accused of practicing witchcraft during the witch trial period were not actually practicing witches. Although there is the potential that some were practicing witches, the majority of the people, if not all people, depending on the type of resources that you are basing this information on, weren't actually witches. Now, so many people have this misconception because they hear the word witch trial and they might assume that it's a fair trial and that all of the people accused were proven to be witches, but the reality of the witch trials is a truly brutal time period, mixed with hysteria and panic and political upset, and ultimately you had a lot of scapegoating happen, and especially during the witch hysteria period, you had people being blamed for witchcraft left, right, and centre, and realistically, the majority, if not all, of the people that were accused and tried of practicing witchcraft during the Salem witch trials actually had nothing to do with witchcraft, and that also applies around the world. Here in the UK, we had the Pendle witch trials, and once again, the majority of the people that were tried for witchcraft were more than likely not actually witches. And so ultimately, the witch trials is a whole lot of confusion and persecution and finger pointing. It's essentially just one giant time period of finger pointing that led to a lot of innocent people being killed, and I think that more people really need to know that. The second is that most witches do not work with the devil, as is seen within Christian concepts. Now, I do think it's important to point out here that many people will work with a devil type figure. So a lot of people may work with Hern or Kaunos, who are almost devil-like figures in their representation. You will also find witches that do work with the Christian concept of the devil. However, I think it's also important to note that because witchcraft is secular, it is non-religious, you will find that there are many people that practice witchcraft that don't follow any deities or any religion. There are other people that may be Christian witches, there are others that may be Wiccan witches, or really any other religion around the world. Or you will find witches that work with individual deities, like myself and many people that I know, that choose to connect with particular deities to assist them in their workings and to connect with in their day-to-day lives. So the majority of people that practice witchcraft may well follow entirely different paths. And so it can be really difficult to kind of collectively group all witches together, because although we all have that interconnectedness of practicing witchcraft, our spiritual aspect, our religious aspect is going to vary practitioner to practitioner, location to location, because you'll often find that, say for instance in England, you will find a lot of practitioners will work with British deities depending on where they live, and that is going to vary across the world. Now within that, there is this idea that Satanism also doesn't follow the Christian devil, and it really doesn't. A lot of people have a great deal of misunderstanding when it comes to Satanism. From what I know of it, it is not really religious much at all. It is more a following of conceptual ideas rather than a deity themselves, and they don't follow the Christian devil. Although the name might make you think that, they really don't. If you are interested in learning more about Satanism, I will try to link some resources down in the description box that you guys can go and check out, because it's a really fascinating topic that I really need to dive into a little bit more. And then lastly, the idea that witches are here to help. More often than not, you will find that witches are very willing to help out when necessary. We aren't standing over a bubbling cauldron cackling, although I am known to have a bit of a cackle. My laugh does sound a little witchy, but we aren't standing around plotting the demise of the children of the neighbourhood. Like, although I'm not a kid person, that doesn't necessarily mean that I am plotting their eternal damnation. We're just minding our own business, doing our own thing. That's typically how witches just go about things.
I am in Salem, Massachusetts, the witch city. I grew up here. I grew up in Beverly, which is right next door, right over the bridge. And I can remember being a little girl coming to Salem, going into the witch stores, going to the witch museum, being so fascinated and enthralled in the history of this town. So today, I'm going to be meeting with Salem's finest witches. And not only are they witches, they are Satanists. I am somebody who believes that you should be able to believe whatever the hell you want, as long as you don't harm anyone. And that's the big question mark around today's video, because I don't know these people. I don't know what they believe as Satanists and what that means. I just believe there's always more to the stereotype. There's always more to the surface level. I want to get to know the humans behind this. I went to meet up with local Salem witches Thomas and Pixie, who are also a part of the Satanic Temple. I had a lot of questions for them that I hope to get answered throughout the day.
What do you have in your jar there?
Oh, this is just water with mint leaves.
Ooh, look at that.
I thought it was a spell.
So much
I want to learn some spells.
But I can show you some of the things I work with.
I would love to learn.
Look, here's something witchy right here, right now. This old nail. This might not look like something to you, but to me, this is something I can use in a spell. I'm gonna pick this thing up. But iron nails can be used in protection spells, binding spells. They're kind of powerful.
Fun fact of the day from the rusty nail on the floor.
See, I straight away really like that approach. The practitioner that's already speaking in this video, that would be Thomas. From what I remember, if I forget people's names, it is literally because I have the memory of... I can't even think of it. That should really give you an idea of how bad my memory is. Straight away, the idea of using objects that we have around. Now, every culture and every tradition is going to use objects differently. So I know that in England and in English folk magic, iron and iron nails are typically used in protection working. So we see this in horseshoes, they're often used in protection charms. So I would also probably have a similar approach to finding a rusty nail on the floor. I would very carefully pick it up because I am very prone to accidents. And I would keep it safe and I would probably add it into some kind of protection working because they are so useful. So I already like this approach, this very... use what we have around, use what we can find kind of approach. So I really hope that we see more of that in this video because that would be really good. I find especially social media today, it's very item and aesthetic based. So straight off, the use of something that's just found is really nice to me because especially with social media, it's a lot, you know, social media is a lot. They expect people to have the nicest things and use the fanciest items. And so straight away, it's kind of refreshing in a way.
I love this house.
Yeah, it's very messy right now. Come right on in. This is cauliflower.
Collie, the little collie.
She loves people.
Hey, honey. She doesn't like me. She ran right away. So what do we have going on here?
There's a lot of different things in here. This is a love potion I made a few years ago. This Datura. Datura is a moonflower, so it's a type of flower that blooms at night. So it's always been seen as really magical and associated with the goddess. It's a poisonous flower, so it has associations with poisonous magic. It's a closed seed pod, and the seeds are in there, so I can plant them if I want somewhere. I'm saving it. A witch is basically anybody that does magic or ritual. Today, the biggest misconception.
Okay, straight off, I will just say right there, that is damn brave. Holding a charcoal disc in your fingers, I could never. But that is because I'm exceptionally clumsy and I would burn myself. But I would say if you're planning on using charcoal discs for loose incense or any reason, actually, just any reason, if you're planning on using a charcoal disc, please always do so safely. If in doubt, don't pick it up with your fingers. Bravery might turn into stupidity real quick depending on how fast you are to put it down because some charcoal discs get real hot real fast. So please use charcoal disc tongs if you do have any because they will massively help to keep you safe, or just like a pair of like cooking tongs that you can then wash just to make sure that you don't burn yourself because charcoal discs get really hot and they will do some serious damage if you do pick them up at the wrong time or you don't put it down fast enough.
A witch is basically anybody that does magic or ritual. Today, the biggest misconception of witchcraft is that it's a practice of evil magic or that it's to harm other people. People look at witchcraft through the lens of their own religion and they see it as an opposing thing rather than what it actually is.
There is different types of witchcraft. There's different types of Satanism. Our beliefs align with the Satanic Temple, which is a non-theistic atheist organization. So I am a witch, and then I also have atheist beliefs as well.
Oh, cookies! Why are there cookies here? It's not for eating at all.
You didn't leave those as an offering?
I did! They're an offering because, like, spirits, the dead, like spirit, you leave either like alcohol, water, cookies, some money, just for like respect. in reference.
This is also where
Okay, this is moving so quick. I'm going to try and break this down really, really briefly. So straight off there, I think it's really important to note that most people will perceive witchcraft through the lens of their religion. And I think that's a really good way of describing it. So essentially, if you live in a very Christian community, most people, when they are discussing witchcraft, they will be viewing it through the lens of the Christian religion. And so what they choose or choose not to observe and learn will be based on their religion. And this applies to every religion. Don't feel that I'm just picking out Christianity here, because I'm definitely not. Every religion has the ability to do this. It's just because I'm in the UK, one of the largest religions here is Christianity. If you are part of a religion and you don't necessarily want to just learn about witchcraft through the lens of that religion, I would recommend trying to find resources written by witchcraft practitioners for people that are wanting to learn, because that's a good way of really understanding what that tradition, what that practice is for the people who actually practice it. And I find a lot of people, especially if they are just getting interested in witchcraft, they don't really know much about it yet, they can have some serious misconceptions because everything they've learned about witchcraft has been put through this lens of whichever religion it is that their family, their community, their area is a part of. So it's really good to try and break away from that lens, find resources that are written by the people who actually practice it. And this also applies to everything else as well. If you want to learn about a religion, the best way to learn about it is to go to the people who actually follow it. Same as if you want to learn about a craft, a skill, it's always best to learn from the people who actually practice that skill rather than someone looking at it from a third-party perspective, because they're never going to have quite the same outlook on it as the person who is actually a part of it. So I really like that description there, that we view witchcraft through the lens of the religion that we are a part of, because that is seen time and time again. Now, the idea that Satanism is atheistic surprises a lot of people, but it really is. I think it's the Satanic Temple that's one of the most modern forms, though please don't take that as an actual fact. From the podcast that I was listening to most recently, I will link it down in the description box, I do believe it was a Satanic Temple that's pretty new in its creation, and essentially it's an atheistic group that all works together for the betterment of themselves and others. And if you actually look at the writings of the Satanic Temple or just Satanism in general, they have some really good points, and it's a really interesting topic. As I mentioned earlier, I'll be linking some information down in the description box. And then the idea of leaving offerings. So many people get confused about leaving offerings. So the basic principle behind it is that spirits, not only people who've passed over, but spirits generally, so that could be the Fae, that could be ancestors, that could be demons, that could be any other spirit energy that's around you, can essentially draw energy from our world. And so offerings are often left to be given to the spirits. So if it is alcohol, if it is food, they will often draw the energy of that. And so you'll often find that the alcohol, as it is evaporating, is believed to go to the spirit world and to go to the spirits that it was designed for. If it is food, any food that is placed on an altar or on a space that's designed to be taken as offering shouldn't be eaten. It is designed for the spirits to draw energy from. And you'll often find that any offerings that are put on an altar or designed for an offering will often go bad faster than food that is placed elsewhere in the same area, which I think is really interesting to look at. And then you can also give things like money, you can burn things, you can give energy, you can give music and song and dance, and it all really depends on which deities, which spirits, which ancestors, which fae you're wanting to work with will alter what you give them. So that's really cool straight away there. You've got a really, really basic offering, the idea of cookies. Now that is something that is good for many, many different spirits. A lot of fae will enjoy sweet foods. Now depending on the fae, cookies might not be accepted, but they might be depending on who you're working with. Ancestors, you might have an ancestor that really loved a good cookie, and so cookies are a great offering for them. And also, if you really enjoy cookies, if you really struggle to give up your last cookie because you love it so darn much, then that is considered a more symbolic offering because it's something that you consider really valuable to you. It doesn't necessarily need to be valuable monetarily, but it's something that you really want, and instead of keeping it, you are giving it to the spirits. And that act in itself can be considered a very potent offering if it is something that you really want, but you're willing to give it to something else, to give it to someone else, someone who's gone before, so that they can get the nourishment or the energy from that. So those kind of offerings are really good. And if you are new and you don't know what to give as offerings, make sure that you cross-reference, check with people who've already worked with them, look online, look for information. But something that's important to you is a wonderful offering because it shows that level of respect and that desire to commit to the offering. Okay, I'm going to stop talking now. Let's keep going.
Thomas and Pixie said it was important to note that witchcraft and their involvement in the Satanic Temple are two separate things. So after showing me around their home, we decided to sit down and talk a bit more in depth.
Let's talk about the whole worshiping Satan thing.
My job as a tour guide is often to really oversimplify things and to really dumb things down, so I've gotten pretty good at it.
Dumb it down for me, just dumb it on down.
With the Satanic Temple, I say it's one of those religions that has no supernatural stuff, no gods, no masters. It's science, it's logic-based, it's philosophy-based, and Satan is a symbol, not a dude. So Satan represents rebellion.
In the Satanic Temple, you're not worshiping the devil, but you are worshiping Satan as a symbol?
Not worshiping Satan as a symbol. The Satanic Temple doesn't actually worship Satan. They see it more like an influence or a symbol to get influence from. So the core moral drive of Satanism is sticking it to the man, fighting the oppressor, fighting for the oppressed. And that's really the most important thing in Satanism above all else.
Do you see witches in Salem doing magic that is evil?
The most evil type of witchcraft is the witchcraft that feeds off of others. And you do see that in the tourist industry. There are people who take advantage of people. I think the big problem with modern witchcraft is that in New Age witchcraft, it's often used more as self-help than as a spiritual or religious path.
I've had people come into witchcraft shops and say, what crystals are going to help the cysts on my ovaries? Girlfriend, a doctor crystal.
That's where you guys are like, okay, we vibe with this Satanic Temple because it's about science.
First.
That is something that I see so often, and I actually agree with it there. You know me, if you've been on this channel for long enough, I am fine with people doing negative magic. I am fine with doing negative magic myself, as long as I've gone down every other potential avenue in order to achieve what needs to be achieved. So as long as I've tried everything else and I haven't gotten any movement whatsoever, then and only then might I choose to do a negative working. So for me personally, I go into every negative working from the perspective of this is my last resort. And a lot of people see negative, baneful magic as being the worst kind. But I actually very much agree with what was said here by Pixie and Thomas, that the worst kind of magic that you can do isn't necessarily baneful, but it's magic that is aimed at people in their most vulnerable states. I think most of us within the magical community have seen it. We've either seen it firsthand, we've experienced it firsthand, or we've heard the stories of it, or you see the adverts. I'm sure a lot of people have seen the adverts in like YouTube comment sections, Instagram comment sections, people claiming that if you pay them the cheap price of like $10,000, they will bring back people from the dead, that they will cure this or that incurable disease, that they'll get you to win the lottery. And they draw on people's insecurities, people's fears, people's desperation in order to gain a lot of money, and the person that paid them usually gets absolutely nothing from it. That is arguably the worst aspect of the witchcraft community. Just like with every community out there, there are people who are going to take advantage. And I would say that that is at least my least favorite kind of magical practitioner are the people who purposefully aim vulnerable people to gain money off them. And also, you see it sometimes where people will be claiming that witchcraft is able to do things that it physically can't. So for instance, in this example, can you give me a crystal to cure this? Or can you give me a crystal to bring back someone from the dead? The answer to that is no. You might be able to supply someone with a crystal that will assist in their psychic development so that they may communicate with people who have passed over. You might be able to give someone a crystal or an item or a tea that will help them to process loss. You might be able to give someone a crystal that will energetically work alongside medical treatment, but no magical practitioner should be claiming that their magic can entirely replace medicine or can be used as a first port of call instead of using medicine. Like, do I think it is perfectly justified if you're trying everything else for you to try magic? Of course. That is generally just accepted that when people are in desperate situations, they will try something that maybe they would never normally try. But I would never ever suggest that anyone use magic as a first step when you're trying to cure ailments. Always go to your primary healthcare, always go to your mental health providers as much as you can, and then use magic alongside it. And so it always makes me a little unnerved when I see people pushing like crystals to cure physical ailments as like the only thing that you should use. That makes me a little bit uncomfortable, like just a bit. Like, it kind of worries me because there's a lot of people who probably need medical assistance that maybe don't get it because they are expecting that a crystal is going to cure all of their problems.
One of the biggest misconceptions of witches is that you could be cursed by somebody who doesn't like you or says that they cursed you. And that's not the case. I don't want anybody to feel like one person, no matter how powerful they feel, have them control your life in any sort of way.
Okay, so that's the first one that I will go personally, and obviously everything in this video is from a personal perspective. I think it's really important not to fear people. I think it's important to remember that within magical practice, there's a counter to essentially everything. It's just a case of having that understanding, doing that research, undertaking that practice. However, you can curse other people. How powerful that is going to be, however, is going to entirely depend on the person that's done it and how much they really want it to manifest. The reality of it, though, is that in most cases, the people that are telling you that they've cursed you haven't cursed you, because why would they do that? They're just letting you know. But then you would just undo it. So that really doesn't make any sense. So if someone is telling you that they've cursed you, more often than not, they really haven't. They're just using it to boost their own ego and to make themselves feel like the big bad when actually they're really not. And then also in that is that most people are not going to be willing to put in the time, the effort, and the maintenance to maintain a curse long term. So people definitely can curse you. People can do negative magic towards you, but that doesn't mean that they are. And so I think it's really important when it comes to magic is don't be exceptionally fearful, because ultimately you could end up attaching that fearful energy onto yourself and doing yourself more harm than good. So ultimately you could be negatively impacting your own energy by being scared that other people are negatively impacting your energy. So personally, in my experience, people can do negative workings towards you, but you shouldn't let this control your life. And there's always things that you can do to counter it, because more often than not, people are not putting the kind of energy into it that they would need to sustain it long term. And if they are, there are things that you can do about it. But I would say 9 times out of 10, the people that come to me asking if they've been cursed have not been cursed. They're just going through a spell of bad luck, or they just haven't cleansed recently and they're just clogged up with energy. There's so many other options than curses, but they can happen, just not as often as people think, especially based on what is seen in like movies and TV. That makes it seem like it's such a bigger problem than it really is.
We went to meet up with Thomas and Pixie's friend, Sarah, who was also a witch, but not a member of the Satanic Temple.
So I came out as being a witch in the 7th grade, and at that point I was in Catholic school, and that didn't go over very well, so I got sent to God camp. I was pretty much brainwashed while I was there, and when I originally moved here to Salem, I was still kind of in that mindset. I came here and it was almost like that bubble burst, and I realized just like all the stuff that I had been fed was literally crap. And when I got here, I was like, wait a minute, the way I felt before is the way that's right, and it's the way that resonates with my soul, and it's not a bad thing at all to be who you are.
What did you resonate with when it comes to witchcraft? Why in 7th grade did you feel really drawn to it?
So I've always been able to kind of like experience spirits that have passed on from a very young age. Back when I was in Catholic school, I'd like bring this up and I'd be like, hey, so this is something I experienced, and they were like, it's the devil. And of course you tell a child that, and that's like the scariest thing they could possibly hear.
When you were going to God camp, what was that experience like?
It was pretty crazy. I tried really hard to just be unapologetic about like, hey, this is how I feel, because I've always been like really upfront and honest and kind of my own person. And I was like, no, this is like how it really is. Witches don't worship the devil. Witches are all about nature and this and that. But the way that they just like beat it into you, it's hard to kind of combat adults coming at you. What they say is logic, and they really, really believe it. But I understand where those people were coming from, because they really believed that they were helping me. You can't judge people based upon what they specifically feel, what they specifically believe, because that's their life journey. You have to encourage them and help them along their path without passing judgment. So Salem is a place that no matter who you are, where you come from, or what you believe, you're always welcome here. And that's something that's really important about the city. In 1692 there was hatred and greed, but it's done a complete 180 from there, so that it's become a religious center for people who aren't safe to practice openly around the world.
It's really interesting to see the sort of kinship that modern people feel with these people who were accused back then. Even if they really weren't witches, you can form this like connection where you kind of relate and you feel for them. And now it's such an inclusive city. I mean, you have people of all different backgrounds, ethnicities, faiths. You have modern witchcraft practitioners. It's sort of become this like wonderful haven for all different people.
People are afraid of witches for many different reasons. It all comes down to ignorance at the end of the day, but also I blame Hollywood. I blame Hollywood for a lot of it. It's all propaganda. Every movie I see with a witch in it, they kill someone, or they hurt someone, or they curse someone, and it continues to propagate people being afraid of witches. We should be educating.
Yeah, this is something I wholeheartedly agree with. I've had a few conversations about this in the live streams, and a lot of people ask why I don't like movies like Practical Magic, why I don't like movies like The Craft. And although as a movie, it's a perfectly good movie, I can enjoy Practical Magic as much as anyone else can, but when you see that portrayal of witches, I know that a lot of the times they're like, oh, but the witches in Practical Magic are good. I'm like, well, I guess in a way, but if you've seen it, you will know that they also do something really, really bad. So even though that person was a bad person, it doesn't make them justified in doing what they did. And that portrayal, for instance, in The Craft, the first half of the movie is like, yay, super nice, fun. The last half is like, what just happened? And so ultimately, almost every single TV show and movie that talks about witches ends in kind of a similar way. Either someone dies, or someone gets really, really hurt, or the main characters go insane. And then when that is accompanied by all of the misconceptions that are in the world as we see it today, that can lead to a very potent mixture, and ultimately a lot of people having misconceptions about witchcraft. And it is really disheartening to see people being essentially hurt as a magical practitioner today because of the misconceptions and the lack of understanding. And that's the main thing. I don't necessarily blame anyone for having these misconceptions because it's not really their fault. However, I think education is really the foundation of it all. A lot of the fear of witchcraft and witches comes out of a lack of or a misunderstanding of the actual history of witchcraft. And so ultimately, if we can share positive information about it, if we can dispel as many misconceptions as we can, hopefully at the end of it, there will be fewer people having misconceptions that have a better, more accurate understanding of witchcraft, so that then future people that come into it won't have the same negative stigma that people had 20, 30 years ago. And I think that's really the way the world is going, but there's still so many misconceptions, just so many, too many misconceptions, too many movies with evil witches in it, too many people spreading misinformation, and it's such a shame because it's only going to negatively impact the community further.
We should be educating people and doing the opposite, because we're here to help people. We're not here to hurt people. You know, we believe in something called the rule of 3, which means that any spell or any energy we send out into the world, we believe returns to us threefold, or 3 times 3 times 3 times, or 27 times. So if you think about the stakes being that high, you always want to send out really good energy into the world, so you're going to get some real good energy back.
I will just pop in here real quick to say that the rule of 3 is part of Wiccan tradition. Not everyone that practices witchcraft is going to follow a rule of 3, 12, 13, 20, whatever it might be. That is entirely based on the individual practitioner, their spirituality, their religion, their belief system. And I think that's another misconception that goes around quite a lot. Not all witches are Wiccan, and so not all witches are going to follow the Wiccan belief system. And that applies to all other traditions as well. Because many different people practice witchcraft from many different walks of life, you will often find that the return law, these being beliefs such as the rule of 3, are going to entirely depend on the individual belief system of that practitioner. And not every practitioner is going to believe the same. So for instance, for me, I don't follow the rule of 3 because I am not Wiccan. However, there are lots of people who do. There's also lots of people who believe in other forms of it. So I've met people who believe that everything that you send out returns 7-fold. That's another cultural belief, as well as the idea of karma, once again, another cultural belief. Not everyone is going to follow these beliefs, and so the underlying idea of energy being returned back is very much going to vary person to person, belief system to belief system.
We headed back to Thomas and Pixie's so I could get a taste of some real spell work.
When you say that you wanted help with money or career, like, was there something more specific? Like,
Just feeling more supported financially to do what I'm doing, and growth for my YouTube channel.
growth for YouTube.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a millennial spell right there.
Right?
Got you covered.
I just started selling it to
That actually
sell these ritual kits, sell the YouTubers.
Now that you said that, the moment this airs, there's going to be 400 kids doing that, just so you watch. What we want to do is a simple spell for you for success in career. So before we fill the bottle, each one of us is going to take a little bit of time to put some stuff in it. I'm going to cleanse it. So I can cleanse this in the name of the goddess and the god. If we're doing success, money, there are specific things that you'd want to use, and I actually found this, and it's a blend of basil, bergamot, rosemary oil, peppermint oil. These all just happen to be things that you'd find in a money spell. These are all things that are good for help with money. Someone else going to put more things in now?
Everybody does their spells a little differently. I kind of like to do mine by nose. I kind of like smell what smells right. And I feel like the smell goes so well with that. I absolutely love these. The peppercorns in all the different colors. I feel like they're just like a really beautiful addition.
Why are peppercorns used in this kind of a spell?
There are a few different reasons. So, I don't know historically if you know much about the spice trade and stuff like that. I kind of like to think about like what our ancestors would have considered as sacred and would have considered to be, you know, very valuable. And pepper and tea is something that like people murdered each other over for years and years. Something like this is like a sign of prosperity. It's a sign of, you know, having that wealth. Oh wow, that smells incredible together.
That smells so good.
Some rosemary.
Do I just take a pinch?
Yep, and take a pinch, and as you put it in, remember our ancestors, remember the future that you want. I always do things in threes, so if you want to take 3 little pinches and put them in.
So right here, I find it really interesting to see how other people do it. So I also tend to do things in pinches of 3s, That's just because I've been obsessed with the number 3 since I was a child, like really obsessed with the number 3. And I like seeing how other people do it and what other people use. So for instance, for me, I typically use peppercorns for protection magic. I don't necessarily associate the historical trade of it. I more associate the colour, the fragrance and everything else. And that's just how a different practitioner will use the same herb. And also, I typically work off energy, whereas this particular individual works off smell, which is another way of doing it. It's a really good way of doing it. It's just one that I have never really used. So I like seeing how other people practice, because there's no one way of doing it. You know, there's so many different traditions, different ways of doing things, that for me, I go off how things feel, like a gut energetic reaction. Whereas another practitioner, in this case Sarah, uses smell as that kind of instantaneous answer for whether or not something should be included or not. And Catherine, you want to charge it up?
Pixie had me write my intention on a scrap of paper and put it into the potion bottle.
You're gonna hold it up without a flingy thing.
Okay.
And then you're gonna say, I, your first and last name,
I, Skylar Cowens,
bless this potion bottle.
Bless this potion bottle.
And draw into it.
And draw into it.
The sun-kissed orange light.
The sun-kissed orange light.
Of the planet Mercury.
Of the planet Mercury.
May my career.
May my career.
Grow.
Grow.
And flourish.
And flourish.
With this talisman.
With this talisman.
Being the catalyst.
Being the catalyst.
And as this is my word.
And as this is my word.
This shall be done.
This shall be done.
So mote it be.
So mote it be.
There we go, sister.
Do you know what so mote it be means? Have you ever heard this?
Yeah.
And it is done.
Yeah.
So when we do a spell, the easiest way to explain it is imagine you have a broken arm. You don't want to imagine your arm getting better. You want to imagine your arm better.
Right.
When we say and it is done, we imagine that the act is done.
Okay.
So when I say so mote it be, you answer back kind of like hallelujah, amen, or whatever, right? So so mote it be.
Amen,
No,
baby.
So mote it be.
So mote it be.
So mote it be.
Woo! Jesus Christ.
Okay, so what was added in there? I'm pretty certain anyway that that's Vesta powder. I think, I will have to double check, I think it's called Vesta powder. It's essentially an accelerating powder that is used within ritual fires, and it helps them go woomph really quick, and it looks really cool like that. Now, I kind of like this style of working. It is what I would typically define as being a little bit more of a Wiccan witchcraft style of practice, mainly because the drawing on the god and the goddess, the so mote it be aspect is considerably different than what I would do in my own practice. And that just goes to show an entirely different style of practice. The individuals doing this work on the basis that they perceive what they want to have already been achieved. For me, I don't necessarily do that. I do it slightly differently. I will perceive the improvement of a situation. So the example that was done there, where they're saying if you have a broken arm, you are going to bandage it up, and then your mindset is going to be that your arm is already fixed. Now, that can definitely work, and so many people have great success with that. But if you struggle with that mindset, try doing it a different way. This is the way that I've ultimately ended up doing it. My perspective on it is that if I have a broken arm, I don't want to perceive it as though it's already fixed, because then I have the potential to make it worse. You know, if you have a broken arm, you're not going to want to be doing stuff as though you don't have a broken arm, because your arm is still broken. I will tend to it, I will take care of it, I will make sure that I'm doing everything I can to allow that arm to get better in the fastest and most successful way. And that is where I direct my energy. I direct my energy onto taking care of what needs to be nurtured so that it may flourish. They are two very different styles of working. Both can be successful, and the one that you choose to practice is going to be entirely personal to you. So if you find that working with that final result works wonders for you, then keep going with it. But if you have noticed that you don't really vibe with that style of practice where you act as though what you've wanted has already manifested, if you find that that doesn't work out for you, try doing it the nurturing, developing way and see if that works for you, because so many different practitioners are going to work in slightly different ways. What works for one person might not work for another. So I really like getting to see things like this where I firsthand get to see what another person's practice is, because it's a very personal thing and everyone is going to be different.
What a day! What a day! This is so fun. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for like letting me into your world and for just showing me like your life. I honestly was like kind of nervous coming into this. I feel like I learned so much. You guys are like really, really nice and awesome. So thank you so much.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah, this has been so fun.
We are about teaching. And that's like a huge part of who we are. And that's why it's like, it's our pleasure to be here, to be able to be here with you in this space, and even just be able to say like, okay, like, let's send more of that positivity out there so even more people can kind of see it.
Should we do a little peace prayer for the world or something?
No.
Tom will never hold hands and sing Kumbaya.
Not hold hands.
He's not
You're not chilling with some LA witches right now.
Going into this experience, I'll admit that I definitely had some fears about being around Satanists and witches who I didn't know. But after spending time with Thomas, Pixie, and Sarah Frankie, I ended up learning so much and really getting to know the human beings in front of me. I realized I had no reason to be afraid of them, and my fears were only coming from the fear of the unknown. This experience was an incredible reminder to release judgment of others, and if you take the time to get to know someone, you might be surprised by what you learn.
So that end basis I absolutely love, and I have found that the majority of people who put themselves out there in their magical practice are genuinely some of the nicest people you will ever meet. I have to say, the witchcraft community on YouTube is absolutely lovely. Like, everyone is just so nice, because the basis of what a lot of witches do when they do videos like this, when they do share their practice and their information, it isn't necessarily to show all the items that they've got and show all the cool stuff. It's more about sharing that information and education and bringing light to practices that are not seen in the same light. I know that sounds kind of cheesy, but it's true. And especially when it comes to Satanism, Satanism gets such a bad reputation. I would argue even more of a bad reputation than witchcraft. And that is honestly saying something, because I have seen people being mistreated for years because of their practices. I have seen shops have to be closed because they've been broken into and vandalized so many times because it's a witchcraft shop. I have seen people have to move because of their magical practice. And even after all that, I would say that the people within Satanism often have an even worse time because it's such a misunderstood practice. Most people have so little information about it, and the information that they do have is often inaccurate and it's altered. And so, as Skylife said there, a lot of people fear what they don't know. They fear the unknown. And if there's a topic, that doesn't have to be Satanism, it could be anything. If there's a topic within witchcraft, if there's a topic within the world that you are quite fearful of, take the time to learn a little bit more about it, because I can guarantee that with almost everything, once you have a better understanding of it, it becomes a whole lot less scary. And that applies to witchcraft, that applies to pagan traditions, that applies to Satanism. That also applies to everything else in the world. Once you have a good understanding of it, it suddenly becomes a whole lot less scary and a lot easier to break down and understand. So that is today's reaction video, and I have been putting off watching that video. I think it's been out now for about a year, and I have been putting it off for so long because I did want to do a reaction video on it, and I actually really enjoyed it. Do I agree with every single thing that was mentioned? Would I do every single thing that's mentioned? No. But that's not a bad thing. That just means it's someone else's magical practice. And that's one of the wonderful things with reaction videos like this, especially when we are seeing how other people practice. It's a small window into their magical practice. Of course, one spell is not going to be able to condense down all of their magical practice into a video, but it gives just a small glimpse into the way someone else does their magical workings. And that can be so useful to other people, especially people that are just getting into it, that want to see how other people undertake their magical system. And ultimately, I learned a little bit more about Satanism today, and I hope that you guys did as well if you didn't already know much about it. I am going to try my best to find some good links to put in the description box, because honestly, I think we all need to learn a little bit more about the reality of Satanism and not just about the misconceptions of it, because just like witchcraft, there's so much misinformation about the practice, and it definitely deserves to have a better reputation than it does, because its reputation is not deserved. It's through misconception and misunderstanding. So once again, a massive thank you to Skylife for doing this video. You are awesome. As always, your content is so good. If you guys haven't already followed Skylife, the link to the channel is in the description box. I would thoroughly recommend you do it. The content is always top-notch, A-star, and this video was one of many that are absolutely phenomenal. If you would like to watch the original video, the link to that will also be down in the description box, as I mentioned earlier. If you want to see other reaction videos that I have done to other Skylife videos or to other videos in general, the link will be in the description box, and it will also be on the end screen in just a minute. If you did like this video, feel free to give it a like. It really, really means so much to me. If you do have any questions, comments, concerns, video ideas, or just want to chit chat with the community down in the comment section, feel free to post a comment. And if you do enjoy the magical content on this channel in this video, feel free to hit subscribe. I do try my best to post magical content every single week. And if you have any video that you would like me to react to, feel free to put it down in the comment section, because this video was one of the ones that was very requested. And so if you do have a video that you would like me to watch and react to, I might just do it if you do post a link to the video, or just let me know what it is down in the comment section. So I hope that you guys are all staying safe. I hope that you're doing okay. I hope you have a marvelous, magical day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye. Hello. It is 10:38 at night. Why do I do this to myself? So there is a good reason for this time. Okay, so in my last video, I filmed at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and the lighting was changing so much because I live in England. The weather just kind of happens. And I took maybe an extra 2 hours to edit out the color changes. So like I would go from being like bright blue to being bright yellow because the sunlight would like shift. Anyway, I gave up filming during the day. I film during the day on my second channel, but not on my main channel because it's just a pain in the ass. And now that it's going dark at like 10 o'clock, I am going to be filming at like 2 a.m. come the summer. So let's hope that this goes okay, because my patience is at a very minimal level. It might actually be like subterranean today. So we are just going to have to hope for the best. And I've just realized I look so different today, because normally I am wearing like the most eyeshadow, just the most lipstick, just the most brightly colored eyeshadow on planet Earth. But today I am colored like Baby Yoda, because I finally got the Baby Yoda eyeshadow palette, and now it's like all I want to wear. So if for the next 5 videos all you see is me wearing Baby Yoda green, now you know why. Because I go through phases of obsessions, and right now it is Baby Yoda green. Or I suppose just Yoda green. I know that Baby Yoda isn't actually called Baby Yoda, but I am just gonna go with it because it's the Baby Yoda palette, and everyone knows this. It's Baby Yoda. Because it is the cutest goddamn thing imaginable, and I want to keep him safe, even though he is an animated character. Like, I don't care. Baby Yoda is so cute, I want to die. Like, he's actually... Like, this character is actually so cute that I just want to keep him safe and squish him. You know when something is just so cute, you just want to squish it? That is how I feel about Baby Yoda, and if you have not yet seen The Mandalorian, I would recommend doing so, even if you aren't normally a massive Star Wars fan. The Mandalorian is super good. Admittedly, I do like Star Wars anyway, but from my friends who don't normally like Star Wars, even they said The Mandalorian was good, so like... This is not a paid sponsorship by The Mandalorian. I have a one-track mind today, and it is just entirely focused on Disney+. It is a problem. I have had to stop myself from watching the Loki trailer because I have probably watched that maybe 5 times today, and it isn't coming out till June 9th, and I think I might scream. So, let's get on with this video. I'm so distracted today. Hey everyone, so it's Hearth and welcome back to my channel. So on today's video, we're going to be doing another reaction video. This time it is to Skylife's video, I Spent a Day with Satanists and Witches. Nope, I got the name wrong. Of course I did, because I have, everyone keeps saying, like, a goldfish mind. Goldfish actually have a surprisingly good memory. I think we need to kind of stop saying, like, memory like a goldfish, because that's not really true. But I have a memory so bad that it's often referred to as being like a goldfish. I read the title like 4 seconds before I filmed the intro, and I still forgot what it was. So next time you watch a video of mine and you go, wow, how did you remember all of that stuff? Just know that it took like 30 takes and I had to keep looking at my phone like this, just off screen, so I didn't feck it up. Now you know. I need to breathe when I talk. Because I don't do that. I just hold my breath and hope I can make it to the end of the sentence before I pass out, which is not the way you're meant to talk. Right. I gotta do a bit of, I gotta zhuzh. This is my hair though, I'm only zhuzhing my hair. I look a little bit like a poodle, but in like a chic way. Is that even a thing? I don't even know. The link is in the description box, and if you don't want a reaction, the link is also in the description box. This seems like the easiest thing to do, but you would be surprised how many people I have commenting, oh, stop talking, I just want to watch the video. It's in the description box. It's always in the description box. Stop telling me. Okay? Okay. And shuffle, and shuffle, and sit about there. My hair is doing the most today. I spent the entirety of yesterday wearing like a towel on my head because it was just so comfy and cozy and warm, and now my hair is just, it's doing something fluffy. And I don't think there's much like fixing the fluffy, so we're gonna have to embrace the fluffy because that one's on me. I shouldn't have spent the entire day wearing a towel on my head. I had a shower and then just realised it was too comfy to take off, and I actually went on a walk still with the towel on my head, and if that doesn't say dedication to comfort, I don't know what does. I got a lot of weird looks just wearing a towel on my head with a hood just like yanked over it to try to hide the fact that I was wearing a towel on my head for sheer comfort reasons. That is how far into adulthood I have gotten now, that I will prioritise comfort over almost everything else. This is just how this works. I'm thirsty. I'm thirsty. I can't get into my phone. Let me in! Seriously, my phone won't let me in. Come on. Thank you. It is midnight. And I am going to go and eat a donut. Because that is what I do at midnight. I eat donuts in the dark, in the kitchen, like a raccoon that is raiding the trash can. That's essentially all I do. Like, I'm a grown adult. I don't need to raid the fridge silently at midnight. And yet I still do. And I need a drink, like really bad, of water. So I'm gonna go do that. Enjoy your evening, daytime, morning, middle of the night. I don't know, whatever time it is, enjoy it. And have a drink of water. I see you. I know you haven't drunk enough today. You never do. Drink. Water. Water. You cannot substitute water for coffee. I know you keep trying, but you can't do it. Water. Yes.